He came like the wind touched everything, and like the wind was gone. He, everybody, he, the Dragon Reborn, is a male. It's not a mystery box scenario. It could be any of you. Amazon needs to cut this crap out because they did it with the Wheel of Time show. They've done it with the Rings of Power, and it's one of the most frustrating components of the adaptations around some of our favorite franchises. We're going to be diving in this today. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfell. Some of you might know me as the bearded dwarven princess from the Rings of Power rant videos, but I have been slowly integrating Wheel of Time rants and discussions into my YouTube channel. And we're going to be continuing those as I'm in the middle of a reread of the Wheel of Time books 1 through 3 so that I can rewatch the first season of the Wheel of Time on Amazon. Because when I had first watched it with Chris, she's never read the books. She gave it like an 8 out of 10 because she was like, this is actually really good. And I was very hard pressed to give it more than 2 to 3 out of 10 because they changed so many things that I just didn't agree with. And they did things like the mystery box thing where they're like, Moraine's telling them it could be any of you, it could be one of you, it could be any of you. We don't know who it's going to be. And I really struggled with that. At the time, I thought the Wheel of Time adaptation was the worst adaptation I had ever seen, and then the Rings of Power came along and said, "You know what? Let me take that spot for you. Let me clear that out for you. I'll happily take that step up onto the podium in the number one position." And so now I'm going back and doing a rewatch because season 2 is just around the corner, and so I want to better prepare myself and better analyze the show now that I've watched Rings of Power and went, "Oh, wait a minute." Let's actually go back and watch the Wheel of Time and do a reanalysis of it and see how it compares to the Rings of Power. Anyway, um, if you're a returning visitor, thank you so much for giving me your time. And if you're new here, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Don't forget to support the channel in any way you can, regardless if you're new or old. Do memberships down there. There's 3 different tiers. We do lots of cool private videos, watch throughs. We're doing the Battlestar Galactica watch through right now for members. Other cool stuff like the Lotro chicken coop build, as I build a chicken coop by hand. And of course, there's also one-offs on those super thanks that you can do after the video's been uploaded. And if you're here during the premiere, when I'm here with you chatting away in the chat window, you can do super chat or a sticker. All are great ways to support the channel. In the meantime, let's dive into the fact that Rand al'Thor, the Dragon Reborn, is a man. He is a man, a big boy. He is not a female. Maybe he could have been a female in the past, turning of the wheel. But in the last iteration, he was a male, and in this iteration, he's a male as well. In fact, and I only know this because I'm just now in my reread. I started with New Spring, which I haven't read since it first came out in like 2004 or whatever it was. And the second chapter, like Gitara Moroso, the keeper, um, literally dies, giving a foretelling as Rand al'Thor is born on the slopes of Dragonmount. He is born again. I feel him. The dragon takes his first breath on the slopes of Dragonmount. He is coming. He is coming. Light help us. Light help the world. He lies in the snow and cries like the thunder. He burns like the sun. It was very frustrating for me watching the Wheel of Time show and having them try to hide this behind a mystery box. Similarly, when I was watching Rings of Power, it's very frustrating to me that they tried to hide Halbrand, and the Gandalf figure behind mystery boxes. It's like, we know these characters exist. You have these existing characters from the lore. You don't need to mystery box it for anyone, especially when your red herrings are so obvious in the case of Rings of Power that we know who the bad guy is, even if you're trying to keep it to the end for like a gotcha moment because you didn't get jack shit because we all saw it coming from a while away. Now, I will say this because Chris has watched the entirety of Wheel of Time, as I previously mentioned, and she's never read the books. She was genuinely on her seat. Like, who could the Dragon Reborn be? And I will say that from an outsider perspective, being able to separate myself from the lore for a minute and watch it through the eyes of my wife, through my partner, it's not a bad tool if you're dealing with an unknown franchise, an unknown book series. But the problem is that with the Wheel of Time, it's the second, if it's one of the best selling. I don't know if it's the second anymore because Wheel of Time, Game of Thrones has sold as many copies as Wheel of Time has sold. But I mean, it's over 90 million copies sold around the world, which is like after Lord of the Rings is like 150 million plus, so it's up there in best selling fantasy series of all time. Um, there are a lot of fans, and I would argue that honestly, I would argue that 90% of the people who watched the Wheel of Time show are people who had already read the books, or at least had read some of the books and had a passing knowledge with who the characters were. Not, there is a contingent, like my wife, of people who have never read the books before, but the large majority of people who watched it showed it. We didn't need a mystery box. And so I'm always confused when they do this with established intellectual properties because it's a lazy writing trope to try to hide these gotcha moments behind the mystery box, like, ooh, who could it be? What's going to happen? But we know what's going to happen, bitch. He's having nightmares, and the guy with the flaming eyes, and he starts channeling, and like, yeah, it's Randall Thor. Like, come on, like, I was very frustrated with that fact as I was going through and watching the Wheel of Time the first time through, and also similarly very frustrated with Rings of Power, trying to hide Sauron behind a mystery box that we could see a mile away. Some people would like to put the blame on these things, especially on Rings of Power, that they try to lay the blame at J.J. Abrams' feet because they're like, J.J. Abrams he was the one who recommended that these two showrunners get hired for Rings of Power. Well, that's not the case with Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time used it too. Has Raf Judkins, did he ever, what did he do before um, he was a contestant on Survivor? I'll be damned. He pursued a career in streaming staffed on the Christian Slater drama My Own Worst Enemy. Then he was hired third season of Chuck. Dun, 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 dun. Then he was writing for Marvel's Agents of Shield. So he never had done a show running thing until the Wheel of Time. So he got lucky. Somehow managed to get that gig, which whatever. Um, this goes back to the episode I was previously talking about, where I have a hard time believing that Ralph Judkins is a fan of the books like he claims he is when he's willing to just gut the characters and make sweeping changes like giving Perrin a wife and killing her and changing the whole reason for Perrin's character being the way he is, um, and doing the mystery box thing, because I think the mystery box for me is just lazy writing, and I wonder if Ralph Judkins went to the same school of screenwriting that Pain and Suffering went to for Rings of Power. Because this is one of those tropes that just drive me absolutely batshit crazy up the wall because it doesn't need to be done when the vast majority of your audience already knows who the characters are and everything else. And I just realized that Lucas is passed out on the bed behind me. I just completely had forgotten that he jumped up there while I was recording the previous video. The bed is not made. I'm not going to apologize for that. I woke up from a nap and went and grabbed a cup of coffee and jumped on here and started recording videos. And then he came in from outside and jumped up and passed out. So, anyway, love to hear your thoughts. Are there any other mystery box moments in Wheel of Time or Rings of Power that you can't stand? Drop them down below. Also, as I move forward with the Wheel of Time rant series, I really need to hear from you, the fans. What do you want me to talk about? What are some ideas? Because I've got my own list of things that I want to cover for the Wheel of Time. Um, some of it is related to my reread of the books. Some of it's going to be related to my rewatch of the show. I'm definitely going to be covering like Perrin and the changes made to Perrin. I'm going to be covering the changes made to Matt. I'm going to be covering the changes made to Nynaeve's character and Lan's character. I mean, all these changes, are they better? Are they worse? The fact that I think I already did this episode actually. Moraine was never she was never stilled in the book. She was never cut off from the one power, from the one source, and yet she got cut off somehow at the end of season 1 of the show. I was like, that never happened in the books. So, I'm interested in hearing what other people might want me to cover as opposed to only what I want to cover. So drop those down in the comments below. Let's have a good conversation about it. In the meantime, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, support in all the ways mentioned previous at the beginning of the video. You could do the things, all the things, yeah. And thanks to all the people who are supporting. And don't forget, if you like fantasy stuff and you didn't already know it, I am an author myself. I've been writing full time since 2008. Currently, the project I'm working on is with my brother and my wife. It's called The Weave in the Void. It's that world map behind me. It's a 5th edition world, 5th edition tabletop setting. We live stream every Sunday night with friends. We also have a book series that's being published through our Patreon page in a serialized format, a couple chapters a month. And there's also a point and click adventure game, which is coming out this winter. So head over there, see you over there as well, and stay tuned for the next episode. Love to hear your comments on ideas for future episodes in the Wheel of Time Rant series. And until then, stay tuned because I'm doing the new spring read through as well and sharing that with everybody. See ya.